Monsters University. Established in 1313, it is the backdrop of the story of Mike Wazowski and how he became the great scaring coach that he is today. We knew from the start that we were going to have to create a college. It needed to seem historic, like it had been around forever. And we realized that we had to go back to college, because a lot of us are artists and went to art school. Well, it's not the college most people are used to.
We were really looking for the architecture that epitomizes American universities. The brickwork, the stonework. A lot of these campuses had multiple gates that you could enter the campus through. And we really wanted to put a gate like this in front of our campus.
The front gate is very special to Mike because it's a symbol of that crossing over into the next phase of his life.
I designed this front gate for Monsters University. If you can see, we kind of used some repeating motifs, such as teeth. We used a lot of eye motifs in and around the decor for the gate. And then even in the brickwork, you could see these really thick teeth, just really driving the point that this is Monsters World. The statues themselves are monsters. Of course, outside of the monster world, they look like gargoyles, but these are monsters that are, in Monsters World, prestigious and people of importance.
When we're creating characters, we like to think a lot about backstory. Who is this monster? Where does he or she come from? So the same is true with sets. The artists have to think about backstory for the set itself. What was this building used for? Who built it? And why is it here?
So everything we design has to support the emotional beat of the story. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to make a pretty pictures. We're really trying to tell a story in each element, whether it's design of the sky, the foliage, the colors, the lighting. Everything has to support the story that we're trying to tell.
In our research, we found that a lot of campuses grew out from kind of older buildings that are still standing now. Monsters University started at the Scare School, and so when designing the school, we really tried to think about how to imply that history.
It was supposed to be very revered. As the characters are walking up the steps, you'll see that they reach up and they pat that one sculpture on the foot. And you can see that it's made of bronze, and over time, by continually touching that area, it's removed the patina.
I love bird poop. So one thing that I ask for a lot from some of our painters is to keep adding bird poop, just so that you get that sense that, oh yeah, there's a world around here, and there's birds, and there's something, and animals use it, and monsters use it.
There's a layer of information that the students leave behind as well. Flyers, bikes, there's evidence of them being there, and that's also part of what makes the campus feel like a campus.
So we had a look at real bulletin board kind of kiosk things. The thing that surprised me the most was just the sheer density of paper on these. People had just stapled flyers over other flyers, and then more on top of that, more on top of that. We had to try to get at least some of that where we could in the film.
It looks like students have been going there year after year, and for Mike, it's his first time coming to the campus, and it's big and new and exciting, but we wanted to convey that this has been going on for years, and he's now part of this environment.
Monsters University is made for monsters, and there are gigantic monsters and tiny monsters and hairy monsters and underwater monsters. So we had to design a campus that was able to take care of all of these different types of monsters.
The underlying idea is that when you first look at it, it looks human, and then upon looking at it a little bit further, it actually becomes monstery.
The tops of the columns, if you notice on the Scare School, are comprised of very large eyeballs and snake heads that come out and sort of rotate around the column top. You also have the top of the dome. When you get closer, it's studded with a lot of little points and teeth. These stained glass windows look like the scales of some of the monsters.
When you think of a set, a lot of people think of the buildings and the landscape, and it's the place that characters pass through when they're going from one place to another. But we add a whole lot more detail to that, all the way down to dead leaves on the ground and tiny pebbles and twigs and bits of debris in the gutters along the roads.
The change of the seasons allowed us to utilize the colors and amount of foliage, helping us carry the story as well.
The trees in MU are different because they've got some very unique colors. Some of them are blue, some of them can be pink and purple. The challenge is figuring out a compelling way to make those colors change. When a summer blue tree goes into fall, what color should that change into?
We wanted a subtle feeling of monsterization. Many trees in the distance will kind of be forming horns or some spike structure. So if you look closely, you'll see the monsterization.
The original design of Monsters University's campus was a more flat standard university setting. And Mike's life was not going to be a straight path, and we wanted the campus to reflect that.
And we also wanted the road to kind of meander and go around curves, so you weren't seeing the scare school from the get-go, and it was kind of all these different reveals.
It was all about the opportunities that arose and what's around this corner and what's around this bend.
In the end of the film, this threshold really represents Mike and Sully leaving behind their childhood dreams, and they're moving on to new dreams, they're moving on to new things, and both Mike and Sully are kind of stepping into the world we know them as in Monsters Incorporated.
I tend to focus on the big picture. In my role, I kind of have to think about the story in general. But what I love is the detail that everyone else is putting into the college and into the world itself. Things that I never would have thought to ask for. It makes the world seem so much more deep and textured and storied than anything I could have ever hoped for.